The warning ignored. The Galactic Council's chamber shimmered with a soft, ethereal glow, its architecture a breathtaking fusion of light and energy. Representatives from 1,000 star systems gathered, their forms as diverse as the galaxies themselves. Crystalline beings refracting light like living prisms, gaseous entities pulsating within protective force fields, and bioluminescent creatures floating serenely in zero gravity. At the heart of this assembly stood High Counselor Verex, whose translucent crystalline body glowed with hues that shifted in rhythm with her words. As her voice resonated across the chamber, its tone both melodic and grave, an uneasy silence fell over the assembly. Esteemed delegates, she began, her refracted light casting rainbows onto the polished floors. A species has emerged from the shadows of the Milky Way. They call themselves humans. The murmurs began immediately, rippling through the council like a tidal wave. Humans, a species most had never heard of, residing on the outskirts of the galaxy, their homeworld orbiting a modest yellow star. What could warrant an emergency session about such a seemingly insignificant species? Verex raised a crystalline limb, commanding silence. The chamber obeyed. They are unlike any we have encountered, she continued. Though their technological advancement is young compared to ours, their ingenuity and resilience are unmatched. In mere centuries, they have leaped from burning fossil fuels to mastering faster-than-light travel. They have colonized inhospitable worlds and thrived where others would perish. But it is not their technology that concerns me. It is their nature. The holographic display at the center of the chamber flickered to life, projecting a vivid image of Earth, a blue-green jewel suspended in the darkness of space. It shifted to scenes of human history, towering cities rising from desolation, spacecraft launching into the stars, and moments of unity in the face of calamity. They are a paradox, Verex said, her voice tinged with both admiration and foreboding. Capable of immense destruction, yet driven by an insatiable desire to create and explore. Their history is one of conflict and chaos, but also of perseverance and triumph. They possess a unique trait we have rarely seen in the galaxy, adaptability born of adversity, and that makes them dangerous. The murmurs resumed, this time with a sharper edge. They are primitives, scoffed General Xedrith, a towering Zetarian with scales that shimmered like molten metal. His deep, guttural voice reverberated through the chamber. Their history of conflict only proves their savagery. We have tamed countless species like them. What makes these humans any different? Verex turned her luminous gaze toward Xedrith, her crystalline form pulsing with intensity. Their unpredictability. Their ability to adapt and overcome insurmountable odds. General, you would do well to heed this warning. Do not provoke them. The general sneered, his scales flaring in disdain. Let them try to defy us. They will learn their place, as all others have. Verex sighed, her light dimming slightly. She knew her words would fall on deaf ears. The Galactic Council, for all its wisdom, had grown complacent. They had ruled the galaxy for millennia, their dominance unchallenged. To them, humanity was just another fledgling race, its potential overlooked, its warnings ignored. As the council session adjourned, the delegates dispersed, their discussions filled with skepticism and dismissal. In the shadows of the chamber, a lone figure lingered. Ambassador Lyra of the Teruvian Collective, a race known for their foresight and neutrality. Lyra approached Verex, her translucent wings shimmering with a soft golden glow. You sense it too, don't you? She asked. Verex nodded, her form flickering with unease. The humans are not like the others. They are an anomaly. If we do not tread carefully, we may awaken something we cannot control. Lyra's gaze turned toward the hologram of Earth, now fading into darkness. Do you think they know we are watching? Verex's voice dropped to a whisper. They always know. What neither of them realized was that humanity had already detected the Council's presence. On Earth, deep within a secret facility hidden beneath the Andes Mountains, A team of scientists and strategists observed the Galactic Council through stolen technology. Dr. Elena Carter, the head of the operation, leaned over a console, her sharp eyes scanning the data. "They're debating us," she muttered. "The fools think we're harmless." Beside her, Commander Jason Ward crossed his arms, a sly smile on his face. "Let them underestimate us. It's the oldest mistake in the book." Elena smirked, but her expression quickly turned serious. "We need to prepare. If even one of them decides to test us, it could mean war. And this time, it won't be against ourselves. It'll be against the galaxy." Jason's smile faded. "Then we'd better make sure they regret it." Unbeknownst to the rest of the galaxy, humanity had been preparing for this moment for decades. In secret, they had developed technologies far beyond what they revealed to the stars, weapons and strategies born of their boundless ingenuity and their refusal to bow to any power, alien or otherwise. Back on Earth, the stars were no longer the limit. For humanity, they were just the beginning. The Zetarian overreach. The Zetarian fleet loomed on the edge of the Sol system like a metallic storm. Their warships, colossal constructs of dark alloys and pulsating energy, radiated an aura of invincibility. The pride of their empire, this fleet had subjugated dozens of civilizations, bending them to the will of the Galactic Council, or more specifically, to General Xidrith's lust for power. The general himself stood on the bridge of the flagship Oblivion Spear, his scaled hand gripping the armrest of his command chair. Around him, his officers worked in coordinated precision, their movements a seamless symphony of discipline. "Have the humans detected us yet?" Xidrith growled, his voice a deep rumble that vibrated through the metallic floor. A slender officer, her scales a muted silver, turned from her station. "They have planetary defense systems, but they are primitive. Their telescopes and radar have not yet picked up our cloaked fleet." Xidrith's lips curled into a sneer. "Good. Let us see how these humans respond to a display of real power." He rose from his chair, his towering frame casting a long shadow across the bridge. "Target one of their colonies. Mars. No casualties, yet. I want them to know we're here and that resistance is futile. Fire at their infrastructure. Let's see how fast they beg for mercy." The officer hesitated, her claws pausing mid-air over the controls. "General, should we not inform the Council of this? Escalation. High Counselor Verex warned against provoking them." Xidrith's scales flared, glowing like molten lava. "The Council is weak. They waste time debating while we seize opportunities. I am not here to ask for permission. Fire." The order was carried out. A lance of energy burst forth from the Oblivion Spear, cutting through the void of space. It struck the Martian colony's main terraforming station, obliterating it in a brilliant explosion that sent shockwaves across the barren landscape. Dust clouds rose like crimson storms, and the once thriving colony plunged into darkness. Xidrith smiled, satisfied. "Now let us see how long it takes them to grovel." On Earth, the response begins. The attack on Mars was not silent. In a classified command center buried beneath the Rocky Mountains, alarms blared as data flooded in. Scientists, military leaders, and intelligence officers scrambled to interpret the information. "Confirmed," said a technician, her voice tight with tension. "Energy weapon of extraterrestrial origin. Mars terraforming station is offline. Casualty reports still incoming." Dr. Elena Carter stood at the center of the chaos, her mind racing. The Council's presence had been an open secret among Earth's top leadership, but an attack. That was unexpected. Beside her, Commander Jason Ward stared at the holographic display, showing the Zetarian fleet hovering just outside Mars' orbit. "Well, they've made the first move. Now it's our turn." Elena's expression hardened. "We can't respond recklessly. If we escalate this, the Council might send reinforcements, and we're not ready for a full-scale war." Jason smirked, a glint of defiance in his eyes. "We've been preparing for decades, Elena. The world doesn't know it, but Project Iron Dawn is fully operational. We've kept it under wraps for this very reason." Alina hesitated. Iron Dawn was humanity's most ambitious endeavor, a fleet of stealth warships, advanced drones, and experimental AI designed to counter extraterrestrial threats. It was a gamble, a desperate attempt to level the playing field against civilizations that had millennia of technological advancement. "Activate Iron Dawn," she said finally, her voice resolute. "But make it clear, our response is defensive. We won't be the aggressors unless we're left no choice." The Zeterians' underestimate. Hours later, as the Zeterian fleet remained stationed near Mars, an alert sounded across the Oblivion Sphere. "General," the silver-scaled officer called out, "we've detected multiple objects approaching from Earth. They're fast, unusually fast." Sidrith frowned, rising from his seat. "What kind of objects?" The officer's voice wavered. "They appear to be unmanned drones. Stealth class, heavily armed. But their technology, it's unlike anything we've encountered before." Sidrith laughed, a guttural, mocking sound. "Drones? That's their response. Send out our interceptors. Sweep them from the skies." The Zeterian interceptors, sleek, arrow-shaped crafts, launched from the Oblivion Sphere. They moved with deadly precision, their plasma cannons locking onto the incoming human drones. But the human drones did not behave as expected. Powered by adaptive AI, the drones executed maneuvers that defied physics, twisting and weaving through the Zeterian assault. They moved as if they were alive, dodging plasma fire and striking back with devastating accuracy. In minutes, half the Zeterian interceptors were reduced to debris. "Impossible," Sidrith roared, his scales flaring in anger. "Increase power to the fleet's shields. Deploy the destroyers." As larger Zeterian ships joined the battle, the human drones adapted. They swarmed the destroyers in coordinated attacks, targeting weak points with surgical precision. Meanwhile, Earth's experimental warships emerged from stealth mode, their hulls coated with an energy-absorbing alloy that rendered them nearly invisible to Zeterian sensors. One by one, the Zeterian ships began to falter. A message delivered. As the battle raged, a single transmission was sent from Earth to the Zeterian flagship. It was brief, its tone calm yet defiant. "To the commander of the hostile fleet, you have attacked our colony unprovoked. This is your only warning. Retreat immediately, or face consequences beyond your comprehension. Earth Defense Command." Sidrith read the message on his console, his anger boiling over. "They dare to threaten us." He slammed his clawed hand onto the console, opening a direct channel to his fleet. "Destroy every human ship. Burn their planet if you have to." But before his orders could be carried out, a blinding light engulfed the bridge of the Oblivion Sphere. The ship shuddered violently as an explosion tore through its lower decks. "General," the silver-scaled officer screamed. "They've breached our defenses, their weapons." The feed cut off as another explosion rocked the ship. Sidrith staggered, his vision blurring. Through the chaos, one thought pierced his mind. We underestimated them. The tide turns. Back on Earth, Alina and Jason watched the battle unfold on the holographic display. The Zeterian fleet was in disarray, their once imposing presence reduced to scattered fragments. Jason grinned, his arms crossed. "Not bad for primitives, huh?" Alina didn't smile. Her gaze remained fixed on the display, her mind already calculating the next move. "This isn't over. The Council won't take this lightly. We've won the battle, but the war is just beginning." Jason's grin faded, replaced by a determined expression. "Then we'll be ready." Above Mars, as the last Zeterian ships retreated, humanity's message was clear. They were no longer just an emerging species. They were a force to be reckoned with. The Council's retaliation. Far from Earth, in the heart of the Galactic Council's capital, a sprawling, gravity-defying megacity suspended over a dying star. The news of the Zeterian fleet's defeat arrived like a thunderclap. The Council chamber, An immense dome of shimmering crystal echoed with the murmurs of hundreds of representatives from countless species. At the center of the chamber sat High Counselor Verex, a venerable being of the Orolith species, whose translucent form pulsed with bioluminescent light. Verex's normally placid face was shadowed with concern as he read the report. Zetarian fleet repelled. Losses catastrophic. Human forces utilized unanticipated technology, requesting reinforcements. The murmurs grew louder until they became a cacophony of anger and disbelief. Primitive humans. Impossible. They have violated the Council's order to remain within their solar system. Tidrith was a fool. His ambition has endangered us all. Verex raised a spindly hand, and the chamber fell silent. His voice, though soft, carried the weight of authority. The Zetarians acted without authorization. Their aggression was not sanctioned by this council. However, he paused, his bioluminescence dimming as he chose his words carefully. The humans have demonstrated a capability far beyond what we believed possible. If they can defeat a fleet as advanced as the Zetarians, they are no longer a species to be observed. They are a species to be contained. A hulking representative from the Torith Empire, his 6 eyes glowing like embers, slammed a clawed fist onto his podium. Contain them. No, they must be eradicated before they become a threat to the balance of power. Others nodded in agreement, but a slender bird-like being from the Illurian Alliance raised a wing and risked turning them into martyrs. No, we must proceed carefully. A show of overwhelming force, yes, but let them surrender before we annihilate them. This way, we absorb their knowledge and prevent unnecessary destruction. The chamber erupted into another wave of debate, but Verex silenced them once more. Enough. We will vote on the matter. The vote was swift and decisive. The Council would dispatch its armada to Earth, not for outright destruction, but to force humanity into submission. Earth prepares for the unthinkable. On Earth, Dr. Elena Carter and Commander Jason Ward were already bracing for the next move. The Iron Dawn initiative had been a stunning success, but it was only the first step. They both knew that humanity's true trial was yet to come. In a secure briefing room deep within the Earth Defense Command headquarters, holograms of world leaders filled the air, their faces lined with worry. The Zetarians have retreated, but we intercepted communications. The Galactic Council knows what happened, Elena explained, her tone grim. Jason leaned forward, his jaw set. They'll come for us. Not just the Zetarians this time, but the Council's entire armada. They'll want to make an example out of us. A European representative, his voice trembling, asked, "Do we have the capability to fend off such a force?" Jason answered with a grim smile. "We've been building for this moment for decades. Iron Dawn was just one piece of the puzzle. There's also Project Exodus and Project Prometheus. Together, they give us a fighting chance." Elena elaborated, her voice steady despite the tension in the room. Project Exodus ensures we have evacuation protocols in place to preserve humanity if Earth is compromised. Prometheus is more experimental. We've developed a prototype weapon that could theoretically destabilize even the Council's largest ships. But using it comes with risks. The room fell silent as the weight of their decisions pressed down on them. Finally, a representative from Africa spoke. "Whatever it takes. We will not bow to them." The arrival of the Armada. Weeks later, the skies above Earth darkened, not with clouds, but with the shadows of ships so vast they seemed to block out the stars. The Galactic Council's armada was a sight to behold, an interstellar fleet designed to enforce order across the galaxy. At its center was the ethereal Vanguard, a city-sized dreadnought bristling with weapons and escorted by smaller cruisers and fighters. Its captain, Admiral Zyre, was a legend among the Council's forces, known for his ruthless efficiency. Zyre stood on the bridge of the Vanguard, his insectoid features betraying no emotion as he surveyed Earth. "Send the transmission," he ordered. Moments later, screams across Earth lit up with the image of Zyre. His voice, amplified and translated into countless languages, echoed across the planet. Humans, you have defied the Galactic Council. You have demonstrated capabilities that threaten the stability of the galaxy. You have one chance to surrender. Lay down your arms, and your world will be spared. Resist, and you will be annihilated. A reluctant unity. The ultimatum galvanized humanity like never before. Differences that had divided nations for centuries were set aside as the world united against a common foe. Factories churned out weapons and drones at an unprecedented pace. Scientists worked around the clock to refine Project Prometheus. In the streets, civilians volunteered to join planetary defense forces, while underground bunkers were filled with those who couldn't fight. Families clung to each other, unsure if they would live to see another sunrise. Elena and Jason worked tirelessly, coordinating Earth's response. "The Prometheus cannon is ready," Elena reported, though her voice was heavy with uncertainty. "But we only get one shot. If it fails..." Jason placed a hand on her shoulder. "It won't fail. Humanity didn't come this far just to lose now." The first strike. The Council's armada began its assault with precision strikes on Earth's orbital defenses. Satellites were obliterated, space stations torn apart. Yet, humanity's response was swift and calculated. Stealth fighters and drones launched from hidden bases, engaging the Council's forces in chaotic dogfights. Earth's warships, though outnumbered, used the planet's magnetic field to their advantage, executing ambushes and retreating to safety. But the true turning point came when the ethereal vanguard entered Earth's atmosphere. Its sheer size caused tidal waves and storms as it descended, its weapons targeting key military installations. Elena and Jason watched from the command center as the vanguard's shadow fell over the Pacific Ocean. "Is the Prometheus cannon online?" Jason demanded. "Target locked," a technician confirmed. Elena hesitated, her finger hovering over the activation panel. "If this fails, we lose everything." Jason met her gaze. "Then it can't fail." With a deep breath, Elena activated the Prometheus cannon. The shot heard across the galaxy. From a hidden facility in the Andes, the Prometheus cannon unleashed a beam of energy unlike anything seen before. It pierced the sky, a blinding light that seemed to tear through reality itself. The beam struck the ethereal vanguard, bypassing its shields and tearing through its core. For a moment, the ship seemed to hang in the air, defying gravity, before it erupted in a cataclysmic explosion that lit up the night. Cheers erupted across Earth as the vanguard's remains crashed into the ocean. But the victory was short-lived. "Admiral Zaire's ship is down," Jason said, his voice tinged with both triumph and dread. "But the rest of the armada is still out there." Elena nodded, her expression resolute. "We've sent a message. Now, let's make sure they understand it." The Council reconsiders. Back in the Council chamber, Varex watched the live feed of the Vanguard's destruction with a mixture of awe and fear. The humans had not only resisted, they had struck a blow that would ripple across the galaxy. "Their defiance will inspire others," the Torveth representative growled. "Perhaps," Varex replied, his voice measured. "But it may also teach us a lesson we have long forgotten. That power does not guarantee control." The Council's next decision would determine the fate of humanity and the galaxy itself. Humanity's final gambit, the destruction of the ethereal vanguard, sent shockwaves across the galaxy. Never before had an emerging species so thoroughly defied the Galactic Council's authority. On Earth, the wreckage of the dreadnought was both a grim reminder of the cost of war and a symbol of hope. But the battle was far from over. The remaining armada, though temporarily disoriented by the loss of their flagship, was regrouping. Humanity knew it had bought time, nothing more. Rallying a planet. Deep in the Andes Mountains, the Prometheus Command Center buzzed with frantic energy. Dr. Elena Carter and Commander Jason Ward stood at the heart of the chaos, surrounded by holographic displays tracking every Council ship in orbit. Their earlier victory had boosted morale, but it was clear to both of them that Earth's defenses could only withstand so much. "We've crippled their morale," Jason said, his eyes scanning the battle reports. but the rest of the fleet is already moving into formation. They're going to bombard us from orbit. We need to hit them again, and harder this time." Elena nodded, her mind racing through the possibilities. Prometheus worked because they didn't see it coming. But now, they'll be ready. We need something unconventional, something they can't predict. Jason raised an eyebrow. "You're not thinking about Project Shadowstorm, are you?" Elena hesitated. Shadowstorm was a top-secret initiative, even more experimental than Prometheus. Its goal was audacious: to infiltrate and disable enemy ships from the inside using advanced stealth technology and AI-operated drones. The catch: it had never been tested in a real combat scenario. "It's risky," she admitted, "but it might be our only shot. If we can neutralize their command ships, we can force them to negotiate." Jason smirked. "Risk is all we've got left." The Shadowstorm teams. Around the world, elite strike teams were assembled under the banner of Project Shadowstorm. These men and women were the best humanity had to offer. Soldiers, engineers, hackers, and pilots, all trained for missions deemed impossible. Among them was Captain Aidan Blake, a former astronaut turned Special Forces operative. Blake's team was tasked with the most dangerous mission of all: boarding the Eclipse Sovereign, the Council's secondary command ship and a critical hub for their fleet's communications. As they prepared for launch aboard the Orion Spear, a modified stealth cruiser, Blake addressed his team. "Listen up. The Council thinks they're untouchable. They think we're just a bunch of primitive swinging sticks. Tonight, we prove them wrong. Our job is to get aboard the Sovereign, disable their systems, and get out before they know what hit them. Failure is not an option." The team responded with a chorus of nods and grim determination. They knew the stakes. If they failed, Earth's last line of defense would crumble. The infiltration. The Orion Spear launched under the cover of night, its cloaking technology rendering it invisible to the Council's sensors. As it approached the Eclipse Sovereign, Blake and his team donned their advanced exosuits, each equipped with adaptive camouflage and integrated AI support. The insertion was nerve-wracking. The spear lashed onto the Sovereign's hull, and the team used magnetic grapples to breach an airlock. Inside, the ship was a labyrinth of corridors and alien architecture, its walls pulsating with a strange, organic energy. "Stay sharp," Blake whispered into his comm. "These ships aren't just metal and wires. They're alive in their own way." The team moved with precision, planting EMP charges at key nodes to disrupt the ship's systems. But as they reached the central command hub, they encountered unexpected resistance. The ship's AI defenses. Mechanical sentries emerged from the walls, their spindly limbs crackling with energy. The team fought fiercely, their weapons calibrated to exploit the sentries' weaknesses. But it was a brutal fight, and not everyone made it through. Blake gritted his teeth as he placed the final charge. "We're not losing anyone else. Fall back to the extraction point. Now." The charges detonated as the team escaped, plunging the Sovereign into chaos. Its communication systems went offline, leaving the Council fleet disoriented and vulnerable. The Council's dilemma. On board the Council's flagship, High Admiral Calith snarled in frustration. The humans had struck another blow, and the loss of the Eclipse Sovereign was a significant setback. The fleet's cohesion was unraveling, and dissent was spreading among the captains. "This is unacceptable," Calith roared, slamming a clawed fist onto the command table. "They are insects, and yet they defy us at every turn." Verex, who had arrived aboard a diplomatic cruiser to oversee the situation, remained calm. "Perhaps it is time to reconsider our approach," he said. Calith glared at him. "Reconsider? They've made a mockery of the Council's authority, and yet they've demonstrated remarkable ingenuity," Verex countered. "Destroying them outright would be a waste. There is potential here, potential that could serve the Council if harnessed correctly." Calith's eyes narrowed. "You suggest we negotiate?" "I suggest we adapt," Verex replied. "If we cannot subjugate them by force, We must find another way to bring them into the fold. Reluctantly, Calith agreed to Varex's plan. A transmission was sent to Earth, offering a temporary ceasefire and a meeting to discuss terms. Earth's response. In the war room of the Earth Defense Command, the message from the Council was met with skepticism. "They're stalling," Jason said bluntly. "They've lost 2 major ships, and they need time to regroup. This isn't a peace offering. It's a trap." Alina nodded. "Agreed. But we can use this to our advantage. If they want to negotiate, we can draw them into a position where we have the upper hand." A plan was quickly devised. Humanity would send a delegation to the meeting, but they would come prepared. A fleet of cloaked ships would shadow the delegation, ready to strike if the Council tried anything. Meanwhile, Earth's defenses would remain on high alert. Jason volunteered to lead the delegation, with Alina by his side. "If this is a trap," he said, "we'll spring it on them first." The negotiation. The meeting took place aboard a neutral station orbiting a gas giant in the outer reaches of the solar system. The station was a relic of an ancient, extinct civilization, its halls filled with strange carvings and forgotten technology. Jason and Alina entered the chamber with a small team of diplomats and security personnel. Across the table sat Varex, his bioluminescent form glowing softly, and a handful of other council representatives. Varex began, his tone measured. "Humanity has proven itself resourceful and resilient, but continued resistance will only lead to further suffering. Join the Council, and you will gain access to knowledge and resources beyond your imagination." Jason leaned forward, his eyes sharp. "And in return, we give up our freedom. No deal." Varex's glow dimmed slightly. "Freedom is a matter of perspective. Under the Council's guidance, your species could thrive." Alina interjected, her voice steady. "We don't need your guidance. We've come this far on our own, and we're not about to stop now." The tension in the room was palpable. Just as it seemed the negotiations would break down, alarms blared throughout the station. Jason's comm crackled to life. "Commander, we've got incoming." Multiple Council ships breaking formation and heading toward the station. Jason and Alina exchanged a glance. "It's a trap," Jason muttered. But humanity was ready. As the Council's ships closed in, Earth's cloaked fleet revealed itself, launching a coordinated attack that caught the Council off guard. The station shook as battle erupted in the skies above. The turning point. The battle was fierce, but humanity's preparation and ingenuity turned the tide. By the time the dust settled, several Council ships had been destroyed or disabled, and the rest were retreating. On the station, Varex watched in silence as the feed from his fleet went dark. He turned to Jason and Alina, his expression unreadable. "It seems I underestimated you," he admitted. "Perhaps the Council has as well." Jason crossed his arms. "You can't beat us, Varex. And you know it. So here's our offer. Leave our system, and we'll leave yours. But if you come back, we'll be ready." Varex considered the proposition carefully. Finally, he nodded. "Very well. But know this. The galaxy is vast, and not all who dwell within it will be as willing to negotiate." As the Council representatives departed, Jason turned to Alina. "We've won this round, but the war isn't over." Alina smiled faintly. "No, but for the first time, we've shown the galaxy what humanity is capable of." The price of victory. The Council's fleet retreated beyond Earth's orbit, leaving humanity with its first real taste of triumph. But victory came with a price, a cost that could not be measured in debris fields or destroyed starships. Across the globe, the weight of what had been won, and what had been lost, began to settle in. Rebuilding amidst the ruins. In the aftermath of the battle, cities lay in ruin. The skies over major metropolises were streaked with smoke and ash, the scars of orbital bombardments visible in the shattered skylines. Human resilience, however, burned brighter than ever. In New York, volunteers formed endless chains, clearing rubble and salvaging resources from collapsed buildings. In Mumbai, makeshift shelters housed displaced families, while doctors and nurses worked tirelessly to treat the wounded. Commander Jason Ward walked through what remained of downtown Chicago. Once a thriving hub of innovation, it was now a wasteland of twisted steel and crumbled concrete. Yet amidst the devastation, he saw people rebuilding, laying bricks, setting up generators, planting gardens in the shadow of fallen skyscrapers. Jason's communicator buzzed. "Commander, you're needed back at Prometheus Command. Dr. Carter has something urgent." A growing divide. At Prometheus Command, Jason found Dr. Elena Carter poring over data streams from captured Council technology. Her face was pale, and her eyes were shadowed with exhaustion. "What's so urgent?" Jason asked. Elena gestured to a holographic display. "We've been analyzing the wreckage of the Eclipse Sovereign. There's something you need to see." The display showed a schematic of the ship's core systems. Embedded deep within its architecture was a series of protocols labeled Containment Directive 7. Jason frowned. "What is that?" Elena hesitated. "It's a failsafe. The Council wasn't just trying to conquer us. They were trying to stop something." Jason's stomach dropped. "Stop what?" Elena tapped a command, and the schematic zoomed in on a hidden subroutine. "We don't know exactly. But based on the encrypted data we've recovered, it's biological. Something ancient, something they're terrified of." Jason leaned closer to the display. "You're saying they didn't come here just to subjugate us. They came here because of this." Elena nodded. "And we might have just triggered it. The cost of defiance." As the days turned into weeks, humanity's celebration of its victory gave way to a sobering reality. The Council's withdrawal was not a sign of defeat, it was a recalibration. Across the globe, intelligence reports indicated that Council reinforcements were amassing in nearby star systems. General Akand, the head of Earth's Defense Command, addressed the United Nations Security Council via a secure holographic link. "Our analysts estimate that the Council will return within 6 months," she said. "And this time, they won't just bring a fleet. They'll bring the full weight of their arsenal. We've proven we can fight back, but we're still outnumbered and outgunned." In response, nations around the world doubled down on their efforts to prepare. Factories were converted into weapon production facilities, and recruitment centers saw a surge of volunteers. Humanity was no longer fighting for survival, it was fighting for its place in the galaxy. But not everyone agreed with the path forward. Seeds of division. In a sprawling underground bunker in Berlin, a group of influential scientists, politicians, and business leaders gathered in secret. Among them was Victor Halliday, the billionaire technologist whose private space program had been instrumental in humanity's initial defense. "This isn't sustainable," Victor said, addressing the room. "We can't keep throwing everything we have into a war we can't win. The Council is too powerful." A woman in military fatigues, General Miriam Cho, crossed her arms. "And what's your alternative? Surrender? Hand over our sovereignty?" Victor shook his head. "Not surrender. Survival. We need to think long-term. If the Council is coming back, we need a contingency plan. Something beyond Earth." His words sparked a heated debate. Some argued for strengthening Earth's defenses, while others supported Victor's vision of a second exodus, a plan to establish colonies on distant worlds, far from the Council's reach. The division between the two camps grew, threatening to fracture humanity's fragile unity. Uncovering the truth. Meanwhile, Elena continued her research into the mysterious Containment Directive 7. With the help of an AI she had developed during Project Shadowstorm, she decrypted fragments of the Council's data. What she found sent chills down her spine. Hidden deep within the files was a reference to an event known as the Eclipse Scourge. It spoke of an ancient entity, a biological weapon created by a long-extinct civilization. The weapon had the ability to infect and assimilate any form of life, turning entire ecosystems into extensions of itself. Elena called Jason to the lab. This is what the Council was afraid of, she said, showing him the data. The scourge wiped out its creators millennia ago. The Council found traces of it in this sector of the galaxy, and they've been trying to contain it ever since. Jason's jaw tightened, and now it's on Earth. Elena nodded grimly. If the scourge gets loose, it won't just be humanity that's at risk. It'll be the entire galaxy. A desperate plan. Faced with this new threat, Earth's leaders convened an emergency summit. The revelation of the scourge changed everything. The Council was no longer just an enemy. They were a potential ally against a far greater danger. Jason and Elena proposed a bold plan. "We need to contact the Council," Jason said. "If we can convince them that we're willing to work together, we might have a chance to stop the scourge before it's too late." General Akandi was skeptical. "And what makes you think they'll listen? We've spent the past month killing their people." "They'll listen," Elena said, "because they're just as scared of the scourge as we are. And because they need us. We're the only ones who can develop the technology fast enough to neutralize it." After much debate, the plan was approved. A transmission was sent to the Council, offering a truce and a proposal for cooperation. The Council responds. Days passed with no reply. Tensions ran high as humanity waited, unsure if the Council would respond with words or weapons. Finally, a message arrived. It was from Verex. "Humans," he said, his tone measured. "Your defiance has cost us dearly. But your discovery of the scourge changes the equation. We will meet to discuss terms of cooperation. But be warned, if you betray us, there will be no forgiveness." Jason and Elena exchanged a glance. "This is it," Jason said. "The future of our species, and maybe the entire galaxy, depends on what happens next." Elena nodded. "Let's make it count."